What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving, you know. So subscribe or die trying. Thanks for coming. Shout out to Big Duke. I appreciate it. I'm still feeling with it. I'm gonna get it right. Um, so this started because I was gonna do a video, right, about how can I put this? I was gonna do a video on athletic directors in the NCAA. And these athletic directors in the NCAA, they were asked about paying the quote unquote student athletes, right? And it was like 69% of them said no. And what's happening? And then I watched this movie on Netflix, Concrete Boy, and shout out, Fletcher Street Cowboys in Philadelphia. And then I watched the Ready to Love season 4 introduction. So when I watched that, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, you know what? I'm not too sure. Or maybe the dysfunction in America is too big to fail. And of course, watching the some of the George Floyd case clips, you know how you got to make people look bad, so that's the lawyer's job, And it's like, you know, we talk about um, being competitive in America, and it's like, wait a minute. I don't think we take it into consideration. America wouldn't be America without its dysfunction, you know. So when those athletic directors spoke to me was, we're talking about capital, right? We're talking about people's ability to make money. That's what America's all about, the ability to make money. And you got people making money opposing other people making money because it bothers them. It's like, oh, if you make money, you have a problem. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. So now I'm like, what we really gonna do today? And now as me, I'm like, let's talk about this dysfunction. Because part of Concrete Cowboys, it was um, a bunch of folks trying to hold on to the heritage of being a cowboy, or not just cowboy, but horses, taking care of horses. And it seemed like gentrification got in the way of it. But the white folks could do it. White folks could do it. The police could figure out a way to mess it up. Gentrify the black part, not the white part. The white people can have horses, the black people can't. It's like, but the story started more so with the son in trouble. So let me get to this first part. So part number one, what would America be? Tony, thanks, fam. What would America be without dysfunction? Because when you see grown men and women making, I think athletic directors on average make like $75,000 a year, right? On average. But think about, we're not talking about the big schools. Feel me? So you're telling me these people can make money off of these kids, predominantly uh, football and basketball, but you can't make money off of them. Oh, and I hope DMX gets better. I just got a message about that. So I'm like, you can't tell me now. You can't tell me anything now about America because basically somebody's going to ask the question, well, if it was predominantly white kids in sports, would they be against it? And you know, everybody would say, no, not really. They'll allow them. They wouldn't get in the way of those kids making money. And remember, I did a review of the college admission scandal because they made a show about it on Netflix, a reenactment. And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, I get it now. If you don't have chaos in this country, there would actually be competition. And if you eliminate the dysfunction in America, that creates a level playing field. That's the problem. So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is something very, very simplistic. In order to win in America, it's fair game to make sure somebody else loses because you want to compete with them. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem. But we don't look at it like that. So now, looking at people, quote unquote, making money, right? I thought I cut the thing off. Yes, I did. You know, looking at this whole shenanigans, I was like, so if you don't want them kids to make money while you making money off of them, are you going to also ensure that these kids make money when they graduate? And the answer is a resounding what? No. No. So how dare you know, expect these kids to get paid for their own hard work because they're the ones people are paying to see, right? And then I thought, how much money would athletic directors lose because they were talking about a revenue split, like a 50-50 revenue split, because what they're basically trying to say is, oh, this is an amateur sport. Well, how do you get paid so much money for amateur sport then? Why would you have to have revenue sharing for an amateur sport? Thanks. Thanks, fam. Why? Why would you need that? And then I thought about it because high school sports is big business too. You don't want to have revenue sharing, with the high school because, you know, the kids aren't necessarily old. They're just old enough to get jobs, when they turn 16. So you don't want to say your starting players for varsity got a job because they pack because if they win, they pack in the house, right? So, and I'm going somewhere with this, so just give me a second. So now we're talking about people on athletic scholarships, but let's talk about academic scholarship, right? Nobody's paying to see you get good grades. You feel me? Oh, snap, my bad. Nobody's gonna pay to see you get good grades. So if you get an academic scholarship and you keep getting good grades, that's that's kind of under the nobody can see your come up. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we doing. This is what we've been doing, but I'm like, interesting. It made me think back to to the movie, the Fred Hampton movie, Judas and the Black Messiah. And I was like, basically at the end of the day, white white America has learned how to monetize creating dysfunction. And basically, if you can, if anybody else can do that, it'll cause a problem. I.e., the whole Killmonger argument in Black Panther. Because I'm gonna do to them what they do to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. The whole Killmonger argument. And I'm like, so at the end of the day, what we really actually talking about is people are highly invested to make sure other people don't succeed. Because if they do succeed, it quote unquote takes money out of their pockets because nobody's paying to see the athletic director either. Nobody's going to the Final Four to say, the championship game, Gonzaga athletic director versus Baylor's athletic director. Oh, put your money up. Who I don't know their names. I don't know Bob Jerkowski and Francis Mulligan. Oh boy, we finna pack the house on this national championship. Nobody cares about that. I don't even know who these people are. And they talked about other universities, big super programs, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, and stuff like that, where the assistant coaches make $1 million a year. So those schools don't want a revenue share with teenagers and people who are 20, 21, 22. No, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. Because they'll say, well, why would these kids listen to me? Because, and follow me when I say this, because people want to have a power trip. Using the movie Concrete Cowboy, they were talking about breaking horses and how white people tried to break horses by breaking their will. And it was like, well, black people didn't break horses that way. We break horses by bonding with them. Creating loving relationship because we understood that, you know, um, how can I say this? Um, we don't own it. It's free. So we're going to treat it like it's free and it connects with us. So they don't look at it like, man, if we pay these players, they're going to say, you can't tell me nothing because I'm making just as much money as you and you the coach. But they wouldn't. But the problem is, what will really actually happen is the players will get their money Mayweather on, and they be like, you know what? People paying to see me. I'm getting paid for this. If I go pro, you mean I get way more money than this? Oh, it'll really kick the competition in the overdrive. And if you do that and you kick the competition in the overdrive, now now you're gonna have a real big what do you call that? Um, Instead of the industrial age, the technological age, you have the athletic age, where you have a bunch of college students popping up, and and God forbid those some of those college students start having financial literacy, getting it early, and their families start going, oh, okay, this is what we doing. You're gonna have college graduates who can just buy a home cash, real estate. I'm already out. I put myself on a good track, um, whether I went pro or not, because I got the money. Now you're gonna assume initially some of things. So you're gonna assume some people gonna blow it in the beginning, but people have seen so many bad stories of people blowing money. I don't think that's gonna be. There's not. I don't. I think that is going to be less prevalent in the future in our community. Sorry. So this is where I'm going with this. So we're living in a country who, for some odd reason, we forgot. we talk about toxic masculinity and toxic this and toxic that. Well, the American ideology is toxic. So, thus the question, you know, is America too big to fail? Because this country does not know how to operate without being toxic. It does not know how to operate without the scam or the hustle. It don't. So I'm like, all right, what we gonna do? And I'm like, nothing, nothing. Because as I watch these movies and shows, I started looking at it like something that's been wrong is going to continuously be wrong. And what I mean by that is peace is not an American concept. Peace is far far beyond an American concept. I'm like, it's gonna be a problem because now I think we're trying to automate out of competition. See, because though automation is going to kill jobs, you would assume it would spark innovation. But I think we more on an Elysium kick than not, where the 1%ers are really about to be the point something percent. And this goes to single parenting because with the concrete cowboy thing, it made me think like, dang, single parenting is necessary to make sure the rest of society fails. And it might suck to say it that way, but if you don't have a well balanced child, they're not really prepared for the world. The world about to put their foot on their neck, and you don't know the wiser because you coming from a one-sided perspective, and the kid doesn't know the wiser because they have a one-sided perspective, and America needs that because if you have excuse me, if you have a bunch of intelligent, well-balanced, self-actualized people, that's anti-American. That's anti-American. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Exactly. So how we going? So how is it helping? I mean, how is this hurting America? How is American dysfunction hurting America? Because it seems that the only thing it did was went from made a class and race war or class or race separation a big thing to the point where at the top of the hill you're still incompetent because even though I do have cryptocurrencies, the one thing I can say is we in the black community as a whole, we might catch on too late. You know, that's like the next, that's already a gold rush for most. And I was looking at, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying this. I was looking at TSPs and IRAs and Roths and shoot. I was about to say 1040s, but retirements. God dog it. I forgot the other the regular old retirement thing, whatever that is, something 40, something 90, whatever that is, right? Your regular retirement, right? And I thought to myself, okay, if you put in to your retirement, say $10,000 a year, If you're good, you doubled your money in 10 years. But mind you, say 10, 20 years ago, you was putting in $10,000 in stocks like Google, like Apple, Netflix, Hulu, Roku, um, Tesla, maybe even Berkshire. No, no, Berkshire was a little too high. So, the Dow, at that time, you know what I mean? 401k, thank you, fam. I'm losing it. The wine is getting me already. And to it, and, by the math of it, you start seeing jumps like 15 years in. You know what I'm saying? Like then you start seeing big boom, 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 booms, right? But here's the problem. Nobody asked the question. If I was putting in $10,000 a year and we were buying Netflix and early on, and we were buying Amazon early on, and we were buying Google early on, and we were buying Tesla early on. We were buying, like I think I said Apple early on, right? You were in a Dow, you were S&P 500 in a Dow when it was, I don't know, say 15, 14, 15, 16,000, something like that, right? And you looking at your statements and they don't add up. Now, let me wait. If I would have actually put 10,000 in this myself, I would have, say if I, $10,000 10, 20 years ago into, let's just say Amazon, Netflix, uh, uh, Carvana. I think that's a new one. That Carvana been smashing or whatever. Stuff like that. If you put $10,000 in for like a 5 year stretch, you would have hundreds of thousands of dollars because of how they've grown, how they grew exponentially. But see, now it's like, wait, money ain't growing like that. But that Bitcoin money is. And you don't see 401ks and Roths and IRAs and TSPs. You don't see them saying, oh, you know what, we're going to get into cryptocurrency. You don't see that. And it started dawning on me that, you know what? If you were to put in to those tax shelters like that for 20, 30 years straight, in 35, 40 years, you become a millionaire, it makes sense, right? But then you think about it, well, how come people could get in the stock market, which is gambling? I will say that you got to take an educated gamble. And you hit a few stocks using that same money, you could be a multimillionaire in half the time, a quarter of the time. So where's all the other money going? Nobody asked how much money these companies are making by using your money to buy a stock. Nobody asked that question. And that's in that same group of financial people in America are the same group in America who basically they had to bail out because the AIGs, the Enrons, the Lehman Brothers, you know what I'm saying? Those type of people. And it's like, wait. American dysfunction is too big to fail because it's all built on trust in a scam artist. It's Easter. You know, God rose from the dead on the third day. That's what they say, right? The third day, right? Type one in the chat if it said he rose on the third day. Because I just want to know something. If he rose on the third day, he died on Friday, right? because Good Friday is the day that Jesus died. So in America, we celebrate Easter because Jesus died on Friday and rose from the dead on Sunday, which was the third day. So when I say American dysfunction is too big to fail, what am I saying? You know, what am I getting at? Because we all blinded by something. Let me get to this racial part. Because, you know, as my dog would say, oh Shay, the white man is holding me back, right? How could racism is a dysfunction in America? I could say that. I could easily say that. You know what I'm saying? I could easily say racism is a dysfunction in America. But here's the thing: racism is too big to fail because too much money was made on racism, and race issues. Too many people got screwed financially because of race. Too many people became rich, on the primary basis that they were one race so they could get over on another race. Too many. So we have a huge problem. You know, huge problem that this American dysfunction. That's why I brought up the George Floyd thing early on. You can tell American dysfunction is too big to fail because you're trying to finagle and figure out a way out of stuff like this. But that's just part of the norm in America. Just the norm in America. Like, hey man, listen, this is right and this is wrong. This right thing doesn't make money, but this wrong thing makes a lot of money. So it's right to make money and it's wrong to not make money. So right and wrong has changed and not changed, but right and wrong in America is inverse. It's right if you can make bread doing it. It's wrong if you're doing it and you're going broke. That's what's wrong. So that part of America is, that's the dysfunctional part of capitalism because what if you could do something right and make money? Everybody's quote unquote all in, right? But they're all in trying to, yank all of the resources out of it for themselves on their own selfish kick because they don't want everybody to eat. They want to eat. They want to eat and get full. So we got a big problem because it's too big to fail. It's really too big to fail. You know, man, hey, I see they were changing that beach out in South Africa. So, you know, we trying to do our part, fam. Thank you for being here. You know, so this is where we at with it right now. It's getting bad because now I'm gonna segue to something real quick. When I was watching already the season 4 introduction, it doesn't look like these people are actually ready for relationships. It looks like they're ready to get therapy so they can be ready for relationships. And it's kind of like group tank, not group think, but a group tank of people who are really in pseudo ways using the possibility of a relationship to get their own therapy and show the world that they need therapy. Now I'm going somewhere with all of this stuff in this aspect, and I'm gonna make a video about this. Why I say, the dysfunction is too big to fail when I talked about automation earlier and all of this other stuff. Because just like I'm live right now, when people started running out of jobs, people started going live. So America in the world is going live. Live is a way to make money, right? What's happening? Live is a way to make money. So now people putting their life out for sale, right? So now you're putting your life out for sale, and nobody's taking into consideration that maybe, just maybe, you know, this ain't what you wanted. This ain't the life you was asking for. This ain't the things you wanted to do with yourself. And I just realized, you know, what's going on. But so now we playing this game where, okay, since if I lose my job, I can use the internet as a way to go viral. Maybe that could give me some money, right? So now we're playing and playing and playing and playing and playing. And what's one of the best ways to make money and go viral? Do something dysfunctional. Do something a little crazy. Do something that's a little out of pocket. Do something that's very controversial. So too big to fail. It makes us too big to fail. The dysfunction is too big to fail because the dysfunction, you know. So that exactly that's what it is. Like, so now we live on YouTube, we live on Facebook, we live on Instagram, we TikToking it up, and it's not sometimes that we're doing it just for the attention in hopes that something can happen, you know. And now it's not. Yeah, that would be true. It's been a long day. Um, so now we're playing this game for other, but see, that's coming with everybody now because everybody's starting to put their dysfunction out. The reason I thought about that was because the thing that just happened with Sharon Osbourne, right? She she went off on Cheryl Underwood or whatever, and it's like, how am I a racist? Show me that I was a racist. Blah 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 blah. Because of anything. But Sharon Osbourne took no consideration into the fact that Sharon Osbourne has been a reality TV star for what, close to 20 years, and her whole family is was built on being rude and disrespectful and out of pocket. That was the whole Osbourne shtick. They were the Kardashians before the Kardashians. People forgot about that. So now it's like, yo, what were we doing? And I'm thinking to myself, of course you can't. Yeah, JVA. Like, of course you can't see it, because like this is a hobby for me. But one thing that I do understand is the more you do it, the more comfortable you are on camera, and this is why I say that American dysfunction is too big to fail, because people don't realize how you come across on camera when you got comfortable with the camera. It's kind of like with the cops and the body cam thing. You're seeing, when I brought up racism earlier, you're seeing white people and not, and Asians and Hispanics and us as black people doing really trying to spin something on camera, but everybody's hip to spinning. What the spin is, and what I mean by spin, if somebody doesn't know, is when you use video or audio and put it purposely out of context so you can make a point of your own. that's really wrong if you put the thing in its whole context. So now I'm looking like, oh, okay, so she, she don't, we don't realize we're that comfortable that people are seeing how they act. People, we're seeing how we act. We're seeing how we get down, and we're seeing how, because the cameras is prevalent. You're seeing how you know you might be one way with your family and friends. You might be a good person with your family and friends, and your family might be a good person. But when your life is on camera, or and you're comfortable with the camera, your family and friends, and you start to see how quickly you shift to being on the attack when it comes to other people. Now you're not that good of a person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Now you're a completely different person, and people are seeing that. Wait a minute, just because you didn't experience this person this way doesn't mean they didn't go out in public and do something completely different that caused somebody else to have a completely different experience. That's where we're at with this joint. So I'm like, this dysfunction can't stop because there is no incentive to have it, no, to normalize being functional, normalize being healthy and happy, and being well balanced and being mentally stable. Because, like people always say, there's more money in the treatment than the cure. There ain't no money in the cure. So if I cure you from dysfunction, then I'm going out of business. Like, and even one of the biggest American dysfunctions is our belief system that we are rich, and our need to be rich, and our wanting to be rich, because we're doing pseudo rich stuff that really cost us money. What do I mean by that? See, now there are businesses, there are businesses out here that are catered to making your food for you and sending it to you because you're just so busy that you just can't even cook your own food. You know, Man, thanks from the UK, fam. Thank you. IW. I just say that in that way. You know, nobody thought it like nobody thought 30 years ago that somebody could yeah. Nobody thought 30 years ago, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make food and I'm gonna put it in, and I'm gonna make it like a lunch plate, put the meat here, the vegetable here, a cookie here, you know, and some mashed potatoes right here. And guess what? I'm gonna sell these suckers for $30 a watt. Like, now we're selling Hungry Man dinners, you know, absolutely, absolutely. Now we selling Hungry Man dinners for the amount that you could go to a restaurant for, you know, and now you spending all your grocery money, on a few meals when you could have just bought groceries and had food for a month. What happened? So American dysfunction, it's not going nowhere. You know, me and my lady was driving. Uh, we went out yesterday, I think. And from time to time, I would talk to her about cars and car lots, because there's a lot of car lots by my house. There's a lot of car lots on the freeway, and I was like, and I was telling her, I said, the funny part about it is you're gonna see all these people going out of business because, and what I'm about to say, preface this. I'm not saying to do it. I'm not saying it was done. I'm just saying I know how America works, and it's possible. So we down the freeway, and she's like, I see what you're talking about. Like over there, it's just all new cars, and them new cars ain't going nowhere. You could tell nobody's gonna keep buying. It's just new car, new car, new car. It's like a football field of new cars at almost every car lot, right? And I was like, yeah, you see how, but the used car lot, you always see turnover. And I was like, that's why I like CarMax and Carvana. That's why they can make so much money because they're tied to a manufacturer. They're not Carvana and Carvana. They're not like Chevy dealership where Chevy's gonna send you these cars and these trucks, and this is your order. You got to get them out. If you're gonna have a dealership, you got to be able to push out product. It's not like that. These used car places like Carvana and CarMax, it's like, hey, just bring your car here. I know they got is an auto direct. I think it's a bunch of you start seeing all these bunch of used car lots pop up. And she was like, so what they gonna do? I was like, truth be told, I think they're gonna start selling drugs. Or not selling, but transporting. She's like, what? They're gonna use all these cars and they're gonna start, putting drugs in these cars and putting them on, and having, having them on an 18-wheeler. The driver won't know anything because he picked up an order from somewhere, and I was like, they've been doing stuff like that, but I think it's going to increase because with all of this, with people not being able to afford America and businesses not being able to afford America, what you think these people are going to do to keep the lights on? They're not going to do legal stuff. They're going to do illegal stuff. I was telling this story about years ago. There was this guy, you know, see, you could there was a car dealer who was like in Colombia, Argentina. They held this fool hostage because they wanted their money. He went on a quote unquote fishing trip and wound up, having a ransom out. And I was like, that's what's going to wind up happening. They're going to start transporting drugs through these cars and car lots, and every night, some of that money will go make it legit to make some sales or blah 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 blah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, man, and I thought about the functionality of this stuff because it's like, it's dysfunctional to have to go illegal to afford what you're legally doing. And then it dawned on me, same thing that happened in the movie Concrete Cowboys. Very few people own things in America. Probably the biggest owner of something in America is the biggest owners in America would be probably the biggest three banks in America. They probably, I would say the biggest three banks own the most stuff in America. And if it's not a bank, it's possibly an insurance company because it's kind of like a shadow bank. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. I sit down, I think about this stuff, and I'm like, because nobody asked where the money comes from for all these apartments that keep coming up. Now you keep seeing, like I was like the housing market here in Houston, it's the housing market as far as buying homes, it's boom. It's less and less home buy, right? But with all of these people having these apartments are just shooting up left and right, left and right, left and right, and they're all costing $1,000 for efficiency, $2,000-3,000 for like a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and up to five. I've seen some for $5,000 a month. I'm like, yo, Let me ask you something. You're creating a market in which people can't afford to live, i.e., California, i.e., New York, i.e., Chicago, i.e., Miami, to the point, Atlanta is on the rise. I think that's what people went from Atlanta to North Carolina because Atlanta, the price just kept going up and up and up. And then the banking industry actually went from Atlanta. In Atlanta, it went from Atlanta to Carolina. And I'm like, hmm. And then you see Tesla, coming to Texas, and people don't assume that Tesla's coming to Texas, and people are assuming that it's a tax-free state, and but it's the energy. It's just Texas is basically the energy capital, especially Houston, but Texas in general. But more so, why I brought up Tesla in this is because Tesla been making a whole lot of solar panels, and this is prime real estate to get your solar panel on. Like, to me, it doesn't look like he's using cars as a cover to make, you know. And I don't well. It depends on where you at, millennial. I tell you that it depends on where you at, because I went some places. I was like, God, I've been here like 21 years, and I'm like, ugh, ah, you know, it's a problem. But Tesla making these solar panels, and I'm like, we're gonna take this, this whole nation is gonna have a problem because once again you're creating a competition, and the competition ain't just the panels themselves. Think about it. You go to war with the electric company because if I can get everybody off of the grid and onto my panels, I can install the world. And I can install the world for a fee. And nobody thinks about it. You install the world for a fee because it take like what, $20,000, $30,000, something like that to install those panels. So imagine, man, if you install these panels, you know what I'm saying? You got the money for that. You technically don't have to pay what is that? Electricity bill for the rest of your life, technically, because you're still on the grid. So you can quote unquote sell it back. Sell them the energy that you have if you have extra energy. But to me, it just creates another competition that's going to create another form of dysfunction that's going to create another form of chaos that's going to keep another group of people under the bus. This country should have been ahead of green energy by now. If this country would have listened to Jimmy Carter, we would actually be able to outsource energy to the world for profit. Now it's actually the other way around because if I'm not mistaken, the Middle East has been manufacturing. They've been extracting oil, but they've also used that desert as basically a hub for solar panels and siphon energy out to other countries. Yeah, man, and that's crazy. So America is like, okay, the dysfunction is too big to fail because we want more and more and more and more and more and more. I need to have more and access to have more. What's happening? And our need to be rich and look rich and feel rich is crazy. You know, right? Exactly. They make it so you got to be technically on the grid, technically off the grid. You know, you know. But I think more people can be off the grid now because basically when that snowstorm happened and the city shut down, it gave people an option. It gave people at least if they use it right. Look, I don't need to be on the like. What if the power goes out again? I need to keep my power. Like i.e. a generator. Type of scenario. like because you could still be on the grid but have a generator, but it's gonna push that a little further. But that's what it is. Who's gonna be under the bus is the people who can't afford to live. That's what's gonna be under the bus. Think about it. You can't afford to live. You see what I'm saying? So if old school houses, this is what I mean, millennial. Old school houses don't have insulation, like houses from, I'll say, maybe the '80s back, don't have insulation. In the South, like houses that were made a little bit smarter from the '90s up. So in the summertime, you talk to a person who has an older house, they'll tell you they get these ridiculous bills, like ridiculous energy bills. Like people in Chicago in the wintertime, you like, what? What is your bill? Like when people pay for heat in Chicago in the wintertime, that's what people pay for air, for energy, for air conditioning in the summertime in the South. And them old houses are just magnets for, they don't hold in any, they store heat and and they don't dissipate energy, you know. Well, I mean, that's that Hoover, but they got Hoover Dam, so that's what that is. Yeah, everybody can't have, that's their whole issue over there, you know. And exact, like it's a show, AI. It's a show on Netflix, right? What is it called? I want to say Mortgage or Marriage or Mortgage, something like that, where the couples get together and you got one lady who's trying to find them their dream home, and you got another lady trying to give them their dream wedding, right? And the more I watched the show, the more people I saw, they picked the wedding. And now this happened right before the pandemic, so they picked the wedding, and they couldn't actually have the wedding because everything shut down. Now, few people picked the house. I'm like, if y'all gonna get married, you might well pick the house. Screw the wedding, because you pay this amount of money for a wedding. Because they were like, I want to get my dream house, and I want to get my dream this and dream that. And I'm like, so they'll go have the wedding, and they're in a 1 bedroom apartment, or they have kids, a kid or kids, and the kid need their own room, so they're in a 2 bedroom apartment. And they're like, hey, you know what? The kid can have their own space. We can have more space. We can have, man cave, woman cave type situation. But they chose predominantly the wedding from the episodes I saw. So this in my mind, like this is the dysfunction, because these same people don't realize they might not be able to afford that house again a year from now, 2 years from now, because the price keep going up. You know, oh yeah, all right, I know that, fam. It's crazy. Oh, yeah, 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 solar. I don't know. You know, People don't realize Chicago get super cold, but they can get super hot too, just because of that lake. You know, because the devil is you. Whew, America been blind since the beginning. That's the issue. Yeah, I mean, but people can't. You know how it is. You know, you got to find a country that allow you to stay there for one. Because it's not like some people want to go to Africa, but you can't. You got citizenship is a little hard to get, and depending on the country, you could buy it in some places, but now you need to get a visa to another country. Now you need to go be the green card dude in some places and marry somebody to become a citizen. You know, yeah, but just because it's not needed don't mean it's not. That's the problem. That's the problem. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I can't think of a way. I can think of, well, let me say this. I can think of plenty of ways for this country to get on the right track by doing simple things that are fair, that will help everybody and won't hurt anybody. But what I know of America to be true is that's not what this country wants. So, in essence, I can't think of a way to help American society by treating everybody fairly and equally and respect and making everything and making sure everybody eats because that's not what this country was built on. And it's too big to fail because the way to keep this country the way it is to keep all of the practices, policies, and ideologies that keep chaos brewing so somebody could profit off of it. So that's the problem. It's like, this joint is messed up. Sometimes, to be perfectly honest, man, it was 50-50 with, you know, some dudes, and I hate to say, like I hate to say it, but guys out here wanting to have weddings to the point where they didn't make the decision. Like, man, let's get a house. Like some of these guys wanted to dance and like, it's not that important, bro. You know, yeah, exactly. I saw the Joe Biden thing, the Joe Biden $2 trillion plan for infrastructure, but that's the same plan Obama was trying to roll out, but they didn't want the black dude to do it. So we went through what, a decade of not fixing the infrastructure. So it's going to be worse this time than it was 10 years ago. So it's like, this is our problem. You know, this is our problem. And the reparations talk is going to happen again because if you keep just showing up with $2 trillion here, $3 trillion there, $1 trillion here, $4 trillion here, save this industry. Here's another trillion. You guys got black folks looking like, dog, y'all got the money. Oh, we're such in debt. Yeah, you're in debt, but obviously you ain't that much debt because you just throwing out trillions. You just making it rain trillions every few months. Countries say I ain't got it until I want it. Whatever. You see a lot of Americans. China, it was already predicted China was going to be number one. I think India was going to be the number two economy, and America was going to be the number three economy by either 35 or 2050, something like that. But that's the thing. America's dysfunction is basically allowing other countries to surpass us. That's why places like Cuba has better medical. That's why places like Canada has better medical insurance. You get what I'm saying? The only country that you could say uh, um, the only countries that you say or continents is Africa and probably South America. And why? Because of white people's interference. Like, you got to remember, China came to prominence in the last, his rise has been pretty fast because I want to say 30 years ago or 40 years ago, Britain left China. So now they didn't have their greasy little paws in all of China's businesses. And because of that, in that few decades, China has surpassed pretty much everybody. That's when you historically look back at it, all that held China back was Western interference. That's it. That's it. Because in the interim, Europe was falling apart because they're not being able to do it. Just like I forgot what the African country said that they wasn't selling, I think, Sweden any more cocoa. In the next 5 years, Sweden and France is going to fall because Africa's like, I'm about to cut you off. Now you're going to see that happening. I was talking to one of the dudes at the gym, Nigerian brother, right? And I don't know how it came. It actually came up. He was like, he's talking about going home, and he came back, and he was like, you don't have a really, Africa has so much that they don't. It doesn't register how much they actually have in Africa. And he's like, I don't, I know what, because he's been in America long enough. He said, I know why we're not ahead, but I don't know why we're not ahead. And I'm like, well, you know what it is. Western countries pay off your leaders, and your leaders are short sighted. As long as they balling out and their family is balling out, they don't care about their country. He said, yeah. He said, but the leaders are not smart enough. I was telling him, like, the leaders are not smart enough to realize the money that the Western countries gives African leaders, they're going to give that money back. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, think about it. This leader gets money from the West. Because they knew who to pick. You know what I'm saying? So they get this guy money. He lets his country. He throttles it down to make sure it doesn't flourish, and that's what he's paid to do. And at the same time, he's propping up the West in America, and he's living high on the hog. He dies. Then his children become the heirs to him, but they're westernized. So now they're going to want the American life in a sense, and they're going to spend all of that money that the West paid that leader in that second, third generation to live their life. And the country's still going to be down in the dumps because of this. And they don't think that, these people looking at like, well, we're going to get the money back. We're just not going to get the money back this year, you know. And that's where everything, that's what I meant by, America dysfunction is too big to fail. All this already. But let me get my butt up out of here. You know what I'm saying? I've been on here for an hour, but hold up. It should be number one. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know. No, it's not alone, millennial. No, it's not alone. It's absolutely not alone. That's like if I'm if if I paid you to make sure your family, you know, doesn't like not your immediate family, your extended family. If I gave you $10 million to make sure your extended family doesn't succeed in life, then by the time you die, but I put businesses aside over here, right? So I put these businesses aside over here, and I put and you have a certain lifestyle you want, you know. So now you want this lifestyle. You die, your kids want that lifestyle. You paying my businesses. So it ain't a loan. I'm actually, you don't realize you gonna give me the money back. I realize my kids and my grandkids are gonna get the money I gave you back to hold your family down and pay my family in the future. It's like, that's what they doing. So appreciate you though, fam. Oh, we on track. We on track. Fitness mama, I'm about to be out of here, sugar. You take care of yourself. But y'all take care. Like I said, like, share, subscribe or die trying. I'm gonna fix this little thumbnail on this thing. Peace.